I started thinking about it probably right when we got signed, which I think we got signed in like '88, and then in '89, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get serious about this, and I was looking at some friends of mine in a band called Ellen James Society.
When Daemon was formed, it was formed initially for the purpose of signing Ellen James. Amy Ray was very inspired by their music and was excited by what was happening for the band.
They were really, to me, like pre-Riot Girl.
The idea was, you know, the establishment sucks, the rock industry sucks, we don't want to participate.
They were part of a scene in Atlanta then when people really, really went to clubs.
I thought of them as being this completely unique entity.
We had all this buzz going on, and she's like, I want to do this label. I really want you guys to be on it.
At first, it was really just it was just me.
And Daemon was just a logo at the time. There was no staff, there were no offices.
I wake up early in the morning when I was on the road and do radio and retail promotion calls and press, you know, everything myself for the band. And I kind of tried to get the band to start doing stuff.
So it was kind of like me and John on the phone doing radio promotion, calling stores.
And they had a really cool manager named John Brand, and he helped me, you know, eventually as their manager, but also kind of started doing Daemon stuff too.
So I was kind of working for Daemon for a long time before I officially was working for Daemon.
In the early days, it was all my friends who I kind of had a wish list of people that hadn't made recordings, and I wanted them to, because I wanted to play their tape in my car, because it was cassettes back then. I was like, you know, I really want to hear an Ellen James Society, you know, record, so I'll make one. You know, that kind of thing. It was powerful. So with them and then with Gerard McHugh, it was really based on this. I was just a super big fan.
Falling empires, tumbling church spires, degradation of a fallen nation.
I think Amy might have stopped by Artlight and said that she wanted me to sign on and do an album on Daemon Records.
Gerard in those days was an interesting character. Everyone was in awe of his songwriting ability.
There's part of him that just seems to come from somewhere else, you know, and he captures it in songs, and you're just like, he wrote that song, or was that song already written?
At the time, you know, it was kind of beyond belief. You know, like maybe I just seen him the day before, or a couple days ago, and I run into him. How's it going? Oh, fine. I just wrote, you know, 13 new songs. And you'd sit down and he'd play them for me.
It's edgier and more lo-fi and more underground.
I'd just been turned on to REM, so I was sort of doing this kind of psychedelic, mumbly stuff.
It was this sort of acoustic grunge, sort of garage acoustic, I think it was called.
Kristen Hall's been on the label, and she's just someone that I knew from, oh God, I mean, just a long time back. We hung out in the bars together. She sat in during our breaks sometimes.
She'd say, Kristen, you gonna play a song tonight? And I'd be like, sure.
Kristen had really bad stage fright, and we'd be hanging out at Little Five Points Pub, and I'd see her in the back, and I'd be like, play during the break.
I'd be running down the street, and Amy would be like, and here's Kristen Hall, Kristen, Kristen.
She usually didn't stick around to play, but then she started playing.
And she never stopped asking. I never stopped saying yes, but one night I actually went through with it.
She's worked for me as a guitar tech. You know, now she's got a big wig publishing deal and she's writing hits.
But if you want more, I'm sorry, I gave everything.
I was actually working as a guitar tech for Indigo Girls, and I was on the road with them, and I was writing my own songs, and they were hearing them. But I knew I wanted to make, you know, a record with a band. And there were a couple of labels that offered, but, you know, I think I've always kind of looked at Amy as my mentor in this business, and so that was obviously the safest place for me to try working.
Even in the 10-year spectrum of all that's gone on, one of Daemon's biggest success stories of all time, and that was the second artist to get signed to Daemon. The next two bands Amy signed were Lay Quiet a While and James Hall.
Most of the people that I signed at first were people that I heard live, that I kind of knew about from one way or the other. Like James Hall, I had been a big fan of Marry My Hope.
I thought he was amazing and very showy. you know, where he would sort of take off his clothes at the end of the set, and he'd be wearing like women's underwear and stockings and stuff like that. You know, he was sort of a Bowie-esque cross-dresser type.
When James started doing a solo thing, I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I was like, wow. And I went to see it, and I was so moved.
Good, edgy record. And live, it just gives it up.
Danielle and her music are so special and magical and wonderful that I can't even believe that she exists and that her music exists, you know? It's almost too good to be true.
Really hate for me to curse myself, and any sentiment would be a greater well. Then I get you saying next that I'm an egomaniac.
Lay Quiet a While, I heard them live playing with somebody that I had gone to see in Charleston.
Ellen James Society we were opening for. Amy Ray happened to be there supporting that band, and then said, I think I'll sign this other band, which was us.
I hadn't heard songwriting that good in a long time, so it was really moving to me.
This was where we discovered Danielle, and she's just been nothing less than a complete ray of sunshine in my life.
I flipped over Danielle.
Live at McKissick, Danielle, solo live.
Live at McKissick Museum was a show recorded at McKissick Museum on the horseshoe of the USC campus in Columbia, South Carolina.
Totally unbelievable, fascinating.
There's that one, and then there's the band one, the Tantrums.
I love their diversity. I mean, they can play country song 1 minute and then be totally metal.
Lay Quiet a While was amazing. Danielle solo's amazing. Tantrums are incredible.
I'm just a rose for the nose, for the nose.
Probably one of the things that Amy found difficult about dealing with in a major label environment is there's pressure to have your hair a certain way or wear certain clothes, or this image is really selling that well now on MTV, so you need to start doing this, you know.
So get a stylist.
Right. I think that whole aspect of the major label scene was distasteful to Amy, and that was one of her reasons for wanting to create a label like Daemon, where artists could exist free of those kinds of limitations or those, you know, those sorts of pressures.
I had some people like Holly Beth Vincent that I had known about from Holly and the Italians.
I was a huge Holly Vincent fan from her records that she put out with Holly and the Italians.
She was right there with Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders and the Police and all that stuff that was going on. She was signed to Epic at the time, and she had a hit single called Tell That Girl to Shut Up. It was like this huge underground hit at the time, and had some sort of big falling out with her record label, and basically they dropped her from her contract.
I had heard that maybe she was interested in doing some stuff, and so for a brief period I was like, maybe I'll get artists that have maybe been like screwed over by the record label or something and try to get them to do indie stuff.
The underground has still been alive and kicking all these years, and Amy wanted to do a comeback record with her.
That was pretty exciting for me as a fan, you know, to get to work with Holly.
And that record is one of the best records we put out. I guess the first, not compilation record, but project that like was brought to me was like Jesus Christ Superstar.
Basically, the way the JCS thing started was...
See, Gerard McHugh and I were on the road.
Michael and I were opening for Indigo Girls.
And in the car, we were listening to Jesus Christ Superstar.
And we had like 3 different versions of Jesus Christ Superstar.
And we just had this fantasy of, wouldn't it be great if...
Amy would be Jesus.
And Emily played Mary.
Yeah.
And you know, we got all our friends together to do it, and it was just a joke, you know.
Before I knew it, it was like a project he was working on.
Apparently, Michael was talking to Amy.
Amy came up to me at the point, and she said, like, you know, I really wouldn't mind doing that. If you want to get together.
And Michael did the whole thing.
Well, of course, I grabbed Judas for myself.
I should want to know, don't you mind about the future? And don't you try to think ahead.
This is a joke. We're talking about a joke here, a fantasy, you know, as your kind of a road trip fantasy, you know.
That album took off and had a life of its own.
It becomes a CD.
But it was just insane. Phone ringing off the hook.
Which becomes an actual stage production.
Even tell you where I'm going, where I'm going. Why should you want to know now? Why are you obsessed with fighting?
And that was a benefit record for the gun control organizations and organizations that try to have alternatives to violence.
Michael Lawrence, who put it all together, was shot in Little Five Points.
It was kind of up to me to choose some sort of benefit group.
It's definitely one of our top-selling records.
It's a
still.
killer
I think
record.
it's cool.
It's really well done, I think.
We've given away just a ton of money to the organizations that benefits.
So I thought I'd do projects like that too. I'll do like a sort of big records that have a benefit cause besides the label. Of course, those are my most successful records, which is a weird thing because I need something to fund the label too. But and then I did, you know, the big project of Honor was another big project for indigenous activism. We had always done environmental work, and then we had merged some of our work with some Indian activists, and eventually it grew into Honor the Earth.
The 1997 Honor the Earth tour, we chose a national focus with the other indigenous leaders, and it had to do with a policy act called the Nuclear Waste Policy Act of 1997, more popularly known as the Mobile Chernobyl Act.
It is also about someone coming to your community because they actually care about you, and they think that you are important, and they think that your issue is important enough for them to put their voice and put their music to it. And that really raises the spirits of grassroots people.
The Honor record was my contribution to that, but I also wanted to do something with the musical community because I wanted to marry the idea of Daemon being a nonprofit label and a community label with trying to marry indigenous and non-indigenous music together on one record and also make money and do some political awareness type stuff within the CD cover itself. So all those things. Because I think you can have a CD that achieves a lot of different things at one time.
As I close my eyes, a dream comes to me.
And then I had like this really great band, Indigenous, who's really doing well now, and that was like their first release.
Then we have like some indigenous acts, Eulalie.
You know, I had people like Soul Asal and the Bonnie Raitt and Luca Bloom.
So the Wet Sprocket.
You know, I'd have like some unsigned Indian artist who sent me a demo tape, you know, things, and John Trudell, you know, people mixing all different kinds of people together from different levels. And then I did projects like the New Mongrels, which was you know, that kind of thing where it's just sort of indulgent, you know, it's all of us, we're all friends.
The New Mongrels, well, only Haynes really knows how deep. You know how these gothic southern things go.
How did the New Mongrels get started? It's a very interesting question.
You're going to have to talk to him about the history of the New Mongrels because it goes back for hundreds of years.
And there's kind of a two-part answer to it. There's the New Mongrels. But they were a continuation and adopted the charter of an organization called the Smith County Mongrel Society, which was founded 134 years ago.
We didn't work much because we might have lost touch with the all-important need to be free. Maybe we couldn't say I believe if we could say I see I.
You know, I want to have a band or a group of some kind. Why not just keep the thing alive? That's how the New Mongrels got started.
Gerard, Kristen, Michelle, Emily,
Ed Bradley, and probably more people.
And it is now an unwieldy organization. 78 members at the moment.
But there are certain unseen familial ties between us all, I think.
A lot of people getting together that were friends and don't normally get to work with each other.
And it was very self-indulgent and fun. And those are kind of the selfish reasons to have a label.
Say hello, mongrel.
Hey. My whole idea about having my own company was that I want to be socially active and politically active.
A lot of the decisions and stuff we make as far as advertising and things like that, we have to think on a political aspect.
Definitely.
And environmentally responsible.
All of our records are done on digipacks now, which are of some recycled content and soy-based.
All of our t-shirts, most of them organic cotton, soy-based ink.
We try to stay as underground and indie as possible and still be able to sell some records. But
The people I hire are pretty activist-oriented.
like with the website, have areas on there where we try to inform people of any sort of issue that we think is important.
Our website is linked to a lot of websites that are activist-oriented. And we try to politicize people through the website and give them updates on what's going on.
I want you to come with us, have a good time with us, come sing and dance beneath the stars.
Michelle Malone was sort of like one of the early Atlanta players that I hung around with, and she got signed right before actually the Indigo Girls got signed. She put out an indie record right before that was really brilliant called New Experience.
She had made a record on Arista and had left Arista and wanted to make an indie record.
It's basically her rock period, you know, which I love. I love her rock period.
Yeah, it was rocking. I've been known to rock once or twice.
I thought the record was great. I mean, Michelle, of course, is amazing. I mean, she's just one of the best singers, and she's a great songwriter. And I thought the record was very strong, and I really liked it. And it did well for us.
I have great memories of that. And I'm really happy that Damon put it out for me and for us.
It's a great rock record. I mean, you can hear it's bluesy and rock, and you can hear some of the folk in it.
Hoping it won't be too long. I have a smile you can borrow, a bucket for sorrow. Leave your worries, come
Grady can go from being like the weird guy standing on the street corner that you're not sure what he's doing there, to being like the rock god.
Grady's more of a performer whose true medium is live, you know, because he uses his body so much with what he does.
He's got this really great lyrical mind, very poetic. I love his images. I mean, that's what I was struck by first, was like his words.
We gave her a cassette, and she appreciated that enough to suggest, well, let's see a live show. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. And she was interested, so she asked me to do an album.
I just was like, create something, because Grady, you never know what Grady's going to do.
Grady's different every time. You never know what you're going to get with Grady.
And I had seen him play acoustic.
I think he's the only person I've ever seen play with a bow tie and a Speedo on.
I'd seen him play with a band. I'd seen him do like a multimedia thing.
The guy's like completely off the map in every direction, you know.
I'd seen him do a thing where he uses a delay and layers his voice over and over and over again and sings with himself.
But for someone who's never seen Grady perform and just sits down and listens to the CD, I think to myself, what must they think of this? Because the guy is so bizarre.
I've seen him do all these different things, and I was just like, just do whatever you want to do, and we'll see what happens with it. That band's probably one of the ones that tugged at my heartstrings the most out of everybody who signed. And it's just as far as just, I wish I had written that song kind of band.
I think she's
saw us play with Magna Pop at the 40 Watt in Athens.
And, you know, Magnapop, I mean, one of the best bands to ever come out of Georgia, and I knew the opening band would be good, so it was the Rocketeens, and I just couldn't believe it.
Pre-rock and roll music.
Southern Gothic.
Melodic.
Very garagey.
Lo-fi.
Happy, sad music.
Everybody loved that record.
That record was great.
Everybody wrote a big, splashy, fabulous review of that record, and the reviews were just rolling in. I was wanting to pay homage to a lot of different styles that were particularly appealing to me. I like the whole late 60s, 70s kitsch.
Bella Luna wins the prize for most wacky and creative band on the label.
And lyrically, it was all about just therapy for me, for, you know, all this weird relationship stuff.
They're the house party band.
Well, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And
Well, there's John Brand, you know. Right. And he's bigger than life.
you know, fuck this. I'm going to like be honest and say what I need to say, and I don't care who it pisses off.
Everybody put your hands together, please. Welcome Miss Entropy. She walk the walk, talk the talk, play the game, has no shame.
John Brand was working publicity for me for a long, long time, and he had sort of been itching to get back into a band.
But certainly I had advantages that maybe other bands that would love to be signed to Daemon don't have.
And finally he put this band together, and I was like, yeah, I want to put out your projects.
We were very lucky to, I think, be in a position to catch her ear.
On Crystal, methadone, look out, she's gonna make us see.
Played a festival in summer of '96, and we had talked to Amy Ray and just really liked the label, and so we came into Daemon, then recorded a record, and Daemon released it March of '97.
Like Amy Ray, she really helped us out because at that point, I think we were in the middle of a lawsuit.
They had a bad record deal.
And
then during
so
the frustration of the lawsuit, wrote
a bunch of songs,
ended up being recorded and became lifelike, and
Yeah.
then talked to Amy Ray about releasing it.
It was completely accessible, great songwriting, a little bit left of center though, which is what I always want, but probably a little more poppy than anything we've done.
And Amy just wanted to help him out, and she brought it to John and Steve and I and said, I really want to help them out. The record's already here, all we're going to do is license it, and let's do it.
The thing with Daemon Records, a label like that, is that, you know, they're not in it for the money. They're not in it to sort of screw artists. They're in it to bring out the music from the band that's making this music and put it out there so people can hear it. That's their main goal.
Why won't they let us be? Why won't they let us be?
I've seen Reversing Hour in many different incarnations, and I gotta say that lineup was just outstanding.
Steve is like, he's a really great guitar player, and he's a great producer, and he's been influenced a lot by, I think, you know, people like television.
Not pretend, feel the wide-eyed bird if I will circling for love.
The Reversing Hour was kind of like Bella Luna in that there was a lot of membership changes, and the band was sort of being reinvented a lot. It would sound radically different this year as it might have sounded the year before.
The idea, from my perspective, of the Reversing Hour that was on, you know, the incarnation that was on Daemon was that we were going to try to push a lot of boundaries as far as using different instruments. Becky Shaw was a vocalist, really nice singer, also played accordion. We also had a Chapman stick player, which is a 10-stringed instrument that it sort of looks like a stick.
I thought it was a really unique sound. The whole tone of the album, just so ethereal.
very moody and very atmospheric.
Looking back on it, was pretty challenging music, I think, for both the players and for listeners. It wasn't exactly what everybody was used to hearing.
Somebody at Epic, at my label, gave me this tape.
Amy found her, and we were out at Flying Biscuit one night having dinner or something. She came up to me and she's like, Andrea, somebody gave me this CD. It's from this woman, and she's got long hair and cat-eye glasses, and she sings country music.
Babe, I was staring into space, thinking about our love and how time forces us to change. It's change that brought us here. You think there could be something.
And I took it home and put it in CD player, and it didn't leave for like 2 months.
I couldn't stop playing it for a month.
I listened to that record a lot.
It's country, folk, kind of Nancy Griffith style storytelling.
It hasn't gotten justice due by any means. I don't think enough people have heard it. I think it's probably one of the best things we've ever put out.
It's like a perfect record, really. And I love it still. I still listen to it. Everybody in my family listens to it still. And she's still going.
We both know that it's not love that we're lacking here. It's the love still between us remaining, which will gather, leave no one to blame. And they say that in time hearts will tame, but time will never change the way that I love you.
Three Finger Cowboy was a demo tape find, actually. I was looking through, I had boxes of demo tapes. They were all like dated and numbered and stuff of which order I'd have to be listening to everything in. And I thought, I'll just pick out an envelope of what I think is going to be the best tape in the box. And I picked out theirs, honestly, and I could put it in and I was like, oh my God.
Our old bass player and I made a demo at a friend's house, and we sent it out to a bunch of labels.
Sending a package to Damon was the most useless thing in the world because no one listened to them. It's just not how we sign bands.
The demo tape came in, and John and I would listen to them sometimes and sometimes not. I'd open the packages up, and if they looked cool, I might pop them in, and then I'd write a note on it and put it in the box because Amy listens to everything, but it would take her forever to get to it. So, like 9 months later, she calls me up and said, did you hear this Three Finger Cowboy?
I came home from the beach, and there was this message on my machine, and it said, hey, this is Amy Ray from Daemon Records, and
I want you to do a record. And they were like, cool.
I thought it was so weird when Amy said, here, see, this is a package someone sent me, listen to it, it's really cool, and I called them, and we're going to do this. And I thought,
I just, I heard their tape, and I didn't even have to go see them live. I knew they would be perfect.
Are you strong enough? Are you strong enough to catch me when I drop my guard? When I fall.
People expected us to be a folk label, and they still do.
There's been this sort of haze of acoustic music that hangs over Damon, and Damon loves acoustic music, and we sign a lot of acoustic-based artists. But Amy, at some point very early on, realized that she didn't want to be limited to a certain genre.
That was one of the big things about Damon was like, sort of, and the thing that probably sets it apart from a lot of indies, except for maybe Kill Rock Stars, which I think is trying to do a similar thing, and Mr. Lady Records too, which is to not have a niche.
And with Damon, you never know what it's going to be. So if somebody gets a Damon package in there, they're either going to look at it and go, God knows what this is, or they're going to go, cool, this, you just don't know what this is, it's going to be a surprise.
You're kind of reinventing the wheel each time because different people like different kinds of music, and someone who likes, the new Mongrels may not necessarily like the Rocketeens.
And we've really struggled with this idea that Damon is an acoustic label, trying to reprogram everyone to understand that we're very diverse.
That's been our biggest problem too. I mean, we've gone through a lot of people saying you need a niche,
We've done most for the Atlanta Underground.
And you can't be that without being diverse.
What's cool about PH Balance is that they were another one of those bands that I just was sort of gleeful about because I thought, boy, all those people that think we're an acoustic label, if this doesn't, like shatter the image, that we're this label that's limited to this one genre of music, nothing will.
Let fly like and let loose. Exit turns to excess, complex twin. Blaze within my haze, vapor sets in.
PH being very danceable.
It's like red velvet wall with a concrete floor.
And hip-hoppy.
It's like cornbread and collards on a rainy day sometimes, on other days, a bright sunny day.
And trip-hoppy.
Sometimes it's cold and warm.
This reminds me of Air a little bit.
It was such a wild departure from everything Damon had done up to that point.
This is between you and me. This is between you and me. We were so close, yet so far away.
6X is a clothing size for little girls.
It's pure, it's punk.
It's really, really fun, like power punk music.
We're about having fun.
Yeah.
We don't take much seriously at all. I think that she was like, have you made a record? Are you guys recording? And we played dumb, like, well, if we had some money.
I just said, I want you to do a record. This is the budget, $3,000, and they did it.
We did our record and we met with them once.
I don't even think they read the contract. They just signed it.
Yeah, we got to do whatever we wanted to. It was cool.
I started really making a concerted effort to listen to demo tapes for a while and stuff, and so I have sort of come across bands that way. Probably the biggest sort of demo tape success is the most recent thing, which would be Rose Polenzani.
I was told I was a wise man by a woman I deceived, and her lover thought me handsome.
Somebody just handed me a tape, and I just was listening to tapes, put it in my tape machine, and I was just blown away by it.
Amy introduced Rose's stuff to us. Rose comes from another world, and I think she's brilliant.
Still being able to write songs that mean something. Because I think they mean something now.
The first couple times I listened to her record, there were a few songs that actually made me cry.
Since I pulled up the mandrake,
Just Inhale essentially is the first step to any meditation, if you think about it, first of all. And you know what I'm saying, if it wasn't for breath, we would not be here. So just inhale and think it through. It's just like that, you know what I'm saying?
stepping up on new turf, a fresh pair of sneaks. Lord, I stand firm like the hard concrete. Now you can't bring me down, I'm holding on to the ransom. Birds and transom, we do bits for Jews, Manson. This my passion, fulfill mine to the fullest. What you talking about, Willis? Ducky's verbal bullets, cause it's like the coup that got yourself shot. But from my block, you better off and have yo.
Yeah, we started venturing into hip hop.
Just Inhale's hip hop, and it doesn't really, we've never done it before. And
Call it hip hop, you can call it, new wave pop, you know what I'm saying?
When I would say, it's a hip hop record, they would just be like, wow, that's a departure.
It's kind of like the Grateful Dead and Public Enemy or something.
I mean, they're in the whole, the Kaleidoscope crew.
Kaleidoscope is more of a conjunction of artists that all hang together.
It's like a whole scene. It's like PH Balance is part of it too, and with raves.
We've been throwing mad warehouse parties in the city for the past 2 years.
And a lot of kids and a lot of multimedia, I'd say.
We have mad DJ talent, mad graph writers, dancers, everything the whole nine.
I thought it would be kind of cool to sign another group from within their family.
It's basically a family of musicians and artists that support each other and run together in the city and do what we got to do, which is be alive and be true.
And the biggest thing I think you do is just support the artists and the scene that they're part of.
Lord, I stand firm like the hard concrete.
I feel your breath beating. I'm down from above. The angels are watching this mystery of love.
Indigo Girls used to open for Mrs. Fun in Nashville.
Right around the time we were starting Mrs. Fun was when we met Amy.
They're a keyboard player who plays a bass line at the same time while she's playing the other line. She's really amazing.
Kim and I started jamming together. We were going to be having a jam session with the two of us and a bass player, and the bass player didn't show up, so Kim just said, why don't you play bass?
And I think people don't understand what's going on in the record because they can't see it.
Your lips are not moving. No sound can be heard. The rhythm is...
Hello, and I'm Kim, the drummer.
She's been in Drummer World, and she's Victor De Lorenzo did a lot of work with her from Violent Femmes. And they had a relationship with Katie Lang, and I just known about them for a long time.
We have about 4 or 5 recordings that we put out on our own label.
They would get interest from like Blue Note or some jazz label, and then it wouldn't pan out.
And she really wanted to do something with them, so that's how the Best of Mrs. Fun came about.
And they've just never been given the credit they deserve, and so hopefully we'll put the record out and get some credit for it, you know. In everything that you do, trying to revolutionize it in some way, you know, constantly reinventing the wheel and constantly talking to other labels and talking to other artists and other business owners, and constantly trying to form a coalition of people that are willing to work a different way, you know. And so it isn't all about mergers and who's going to buy me out and, you know, how can I make money? It's about a community.
Now is the time to react and react. Now is the time to react, so do the math. Take the ratio and cut it in half. If we spread a little love, then we can have a little laugh. Collide elder staff, no joke about this. Life to live, love, and love to life bliss. Excuse me there, you, hey, pardon me, miss. You could fly on the wings of a white Pegasus, but coming down is a new crisis. Oh, I don't need a mama, but I think I do. Don't need a donut,